So chapter 3 of The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Prison is titled And the Poor Get Prison. And here, the authors talk about how, the person at the end of the road, we've already said this, the person at the end of the road in prison is likely to be a member of the lowest SES, lowest socioeconomic status in the country. And so what that means is that prisons are national poorhouses. And despite the fact that we know everything we know, many people still believe that Black people and brown people are overrepresented in prison only because they commit more than their share of crimes. And that's just fundamentally not true. So economic bias is a double-edged sword. Poorer people and marginalized people are arrested and charged out of proportion to their numbers for the kinds of crime that tend to be committed by poorer people. And when we reach the kinds of crimes that poor people really never have the opportunity to commit, the criminal legal system is benign and very merciful. So when poor people commit crime, we are very harsh. When Black and brown people commit crime, we are very harsh. But when richer white Americans commit crime, whether as individuals or as part of industry, the criminal legal system is much more benign and merciful. So there's this funneling process that happens. Discrimination that occurs at the early stages of the criminal legal process shape the population that reach our prisons in later stages of the process. So our system is biased against the poor and the marginalized in three distinct ways when we're talking about economics. So first, economic bias among harmful acts as to which get labeled crimes and which are treated as regulatory matters. That's bias number one. Bias number two is economic bias among crimes. So street crimes carry harsher sentences than crimes that happen in office suites. And then the third economic bias is among defendants convicted of the same crimes, right? So poor defendants receive less probation and more years of confinement than well-off defendants for the same offense. So you can take two identical crimes. One person is poor or Black, one person is white or wealthy. Same crime, they will have very different outcomes in the criminal justice system. So the authors talk about what they call the criminal justice sieve. And so the joint effect of all of this is to maintain a real threat of crime that the vast majority of Americans believe is a threat from the poor and the marginalized. And, that's a very high-level overview of chapter 3 of the book. But I hope it sets this tone for you when you're thinking about who is incarcerated and why, that there's all of this stuff that's happening prior to people landing in prison that sets the stage for who will be landing in our prisons. And again, it's not the people who are committing the most harmful acts. You can't incarcerate an industry. So there's some food for thought this week. Again, you have other material that you're going to be covering related to Pathway 1, but I hope this gives you an overview of Chapter 3.